knowledge the secret, right? And I agree. I can see where it's coming from.
I wanted to. Sorry, I did. I was so close to finishing. I was so close to finishing. It's absolutely no. So essentially, why people are sympathetic to what Hamas is doing. It's essentially the notion of having a foot on your neck for 75 years and not being surprised that they're having a response. That's not to say the actions are terrible and it's awful that it's happening, but one should also acknowledge that what's happening to them is abhorrent as well. One cannot say that it came from nowhere, and so I can see where the sympathy comes from, where it's literally ran out of options. The Great March of Return.
You don't think it's justified?
I don't think it's justified, but I see where it's coming from.
Okay. Do you not think on the left we have a duty to say it's one thing to criticize Israel's? I know you don't agree it's terrorism or genocide. I think it is. But if you criticize that doesn't mean you have to support Hamas, right? We have to make this clear to young people.
But
it's not just Muslims. It's like a lot of
I would also say, I am not Palestinian. It is not my right to say what people's parties should vote for. I want them to get democratic rights to vote again. I disagree with Hamas, but it's not for me to say, especially because it's not my state, what they vote for. You know.
So would you consider Israel your state?
I have disconnected myself.
So Britain
from
is
it. Yeah, I would say Britain.
Really, you have a right to criticize Israelis then? I mean, you're okay with this gentleman criticizing Israel, even though he's not Israeli, but you can't say anything against Hamas or Palestinians.
You've been listening to me speaking for years. My main topic is criticizing British support for the state of Israel. Because, I'm not in any way Israeli, Jewish.
She's okay with you doing that, yet she feels she doesn't have the right to say anything against Hamas.
I have no idea.
Okay, fine. I will rephrase. Thank you. No, thank you for pointing it out, and I'll rephrase them.
It's a bit inconsistent, though, to be
that's
so condemning of one side.
Okay, so I will rephrase. I disagree with what Hamas is doing and its methodology to achieve its goals. Methodology. It's
like a science experiment.
Like ISIS.
Yeah.
Why do you call on Hamas to stop the war, surrender and stop the war? It would stop immediately.
No, but the oppression would maintain. So you are saying it's a genocide. You just said it was a genocide.
Oh, there we go.
I'm quoting you. Sorry, did I not use the air quotes? I'm quoting you.
No, you didn't use the air quotes. You said it.
The genocide would stop immediately if Hamas surrendered.
But the oppression would continue, and the status quo would maintain. Yes, there is an oppression that's going on there.
Israel withdrew in 2005, allowed them.
But they control. Israel controls the seas. It controls the majority of the borders around Gaza. It controls. Hold on. It also controls access to water, access to resources and trade. That's true. It is true. You can look it up.
True, my friend. In fact, they justify it and they will come up with reasons.
They took the pipes and made bombs out of those.
Most of the drinking water in Gaza.
Speaking of water, I could really use a refill. Oh, if you don't mind, actually. Thank you so much.
Processed water in Gaza. When Israel left, they left them with greenhouses, they left them with electric plants and desalination plants.
But when you cut people coming in and out of the country and you don't let them get employment, when you cut off water, electricity like they've done repeatedly.
There are people going in and out of Israel every day.
There was even an Israeli politician who said, we need to put the people of Gaza on the
they literally walk through cages. And in the West Bank as well, you have people that have caged their own houses because they were getting attacked by settlers. It's so unjust.
Going in and out of Israel every day.
When they go into
the bare minimum number of people.
Excuse me. I'd like to.
If they have all these rights, why they don't have the airport?
This is what I don't get. Like in Britain, among the British left, which I'm a part of, there's a lot of righteous criticism of British support for Israel.
Yes.
But then I see a lot of support for Hamas.
Okay.
And it reminds me about reading about Vietnam, where you have like
the behavior of the other.
those people in Vietnam, they were right to oppose. I'm from South Africa, right?
Yes.
It's all very good to oppose apartheid, but that doesn't mean you should support black terrorism, right? There were a lot of white people in Britain supporting black terrorism.
No, that's fine. That is an incredibly good point, and I really appreciate you making it clear to me in that sense. And with that, I agree with the statement that you have said. I agree that Israel's attitudes and attacks and methodology terminology. Let's keep consistent with the wording. Terrorism into the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and all that is completely unjust. I would also say Hamas's reaction is completely unjust, but I will say I understand how it came to be. I'm not justifying it. I am acknowledging how it happened. I'm acknowledging that it is a consequence of Israel's actions.
Although there was a conscious choice by people of Hamas. They have free will, right?
Yeah, they have free will.
Because in 2018 they did a non-violent protest.
Yes, and the IDF made point, the Great March of Return. It's a great example, 2018 to 2019 or something like that. They made a point of shooting disabled people during the protest. The IDF struck back on this protest, actively shooting towards a peaceful protest. It was originally formed together by isolated humanitarian groups. But then Hamas later on joined in supporting and advocating for this march, a no-violence, pro-peace march towards asking for freedom to move, right of return. And how did the IDF respond? Violently. And it goes to show that it's a great example of how Palestinians within the Gaza Strip have tried practically everything at this point.
So in the Great March of Return, a couple hundred Palestinians got shot by the IDF, right? And I know it's not great. They were shooting the press, shooting ambulances and all that. But how many people have died now? Israel has killed 30,000 people minimum.
Yes.
Probably a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
Even Biden was like, I don't want to see another 30,000 people
I am not
dead.
disagreeing with you at all.
So we have to ask ourselves, in addition to being anti-Zionist, should we not be really advocating as much as possible for a non-violent, like a Gandhi-style struggle?
Oh, I'm not advocating for violence at all. I never would.
On the left.
Sorry.
I never hear on the left.
Yeah.
Why are you marching for Hamas to surrender? And that would end the war tomorrow.
Because we have more influence over what Britain does, and right now Britain is the one selling weapons. If Britain was selling weapons to Hamas, I'm sure this young person would be out there campaigning against that. But right now we're supporting Israel.
Is 45,000 bombs defensible or is it indefensible?
Well, let me ask you a question in return. Do you think it's a good idea to rescue hostages using 2,000-pound bombs in Rafah? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well,
be honest.
Thank you so much.
Depends what...
How many you got on the hostages?
If Hamas surrender, do you think that the problem is solved?
Yes, I'd love there to be world peace.
I'm just curious.
I wouldn't have the civil war in the Congo never to happen.
What's your opinion? 100,000 rockets fired from Gaza to Israel.
That's my opinion.
Yeah,
we made it just clear we would like to see a non-violent struggle.
We'd like a non-violent solution to the current situation.
Have you ever marched or said
I don't think violence is
gave speeches
inherently necessary towards
into civilian areas?
You remember,
sorry, I didn't hear
There
that.
aren't 100,000 Israeli dead.
Yes, there's a reason it's called the cycle of violence.
Where's our responsibility primarily,
Yes,
right?
and
History.
well, you need to stop fighting for peace. You need to trust the other person is not going to start something, and that's a real crux of the issue as well.
So
I think it's just a racism of low expectations. You just don't expect Arabs and Hamas to do what's right.
my friend, I've protested here when Britain was selling weapons to Saudi Arabia.
I'll think about
when
that.
Saudi Arabia was committing war crimes in Yemen, I was just as against it as when Israel was doing it.
Westerners.
No, it's not about race.
You expect Israelis
It's not about
to do what's right.
It's not about
you
race.
Don't expect Hamas to do
I've
what's
criticised
right.
British support.
You know the Arabs. They can't do what's right.
I've criticised British
Now
support
that's
for the Egyptian
Islamophobic.
regime, for Saudi Arabia, Qatar. It's not about race.
You can't trust the Arabs to do what's right. You just said that.
He's
You have
strawman.
racism of low expectations.
No,
That's my argument.
I've just said when Britain was supporting the Egyptian dictatorship or Saudi Arabia and bombing Yemen, I was against that. When
what?
Britain was selling
Against
weapons
Britain?
against Turkey to
No,
kill
but not
Kurds,
against
I was
Egypt.
against that.
Were you marching against Egypt, against Turkey? Or do you think that they're just shithole countries, they can never do what's right anyway?
You want to put words in my mouth, go ahead. I'm not saying that at all.
I'm proposing that is really what's behind the demonstration against the West.
I can tell you right now, and this person here will tell you,
people doing their own thing.
I think you should wear
if
this.
you were,
Oh, sorry.
if Britain
They're the
was,
ones actually.
I'm done.
But they're the
it was
ones
very nice
actually
chatting to you.